The description depicted by the promised Messiah, peace be upon him, does not apply to a handful of countries where the public have risen against the governments. In fact, the scenario detailed by the promised Messiah, peace be upon him, over 100 years ago, of the Muslim kings and the Muslim leaders, the Muslim citizens and the Muslim scholars. Today as well, the circumstances in the Muslim countries testify to the truth of the words of the promised Messiah, peace be upon him. The exact same circumstances that he described are emerging today. When we look deeper, then the words of the promised Messiah, peace be upon him, do not only apply to the Muslim countries of his time. In fact, even after the demise of the promised Messiah, peace be upon him, the new Islamic countries or governments that came into existence, the state and condition of their leaders and people and the so-called clergy is exactly the same as depicted by the promised Messiah, peace be upon him, in his book. Then, with respect to all the horrific and deplorable circumstances that the promised Messiah alayhi salam, peace be upon him, mentioned in his book, he also provided the solution to these predicaments. That the Messiah of the time who was destined to come has come, and thousands of signs and examples of divine succor testify to his truthfulness. In order to fulfill the prophecy of the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, and accepting the promised Messiah, peace be upon him, are the only means of the salvation of the Muslims. There is no other path now left for their salvation. However, instead of responding to the promised Messiah, peace be upon him's message positively, a storm of opposition rose against him. After his claim, however, a positive situation did emerge, which is that the opponents of Ahmadiyyat also began efforts to preach the faith on the pretext of serving Islam. The reality of their efforts to preach Islam and to what extent they really cared for Islam, this is better known to Allah. I will not go into the details of this. But nonetheless, some organizations have attempted to preach Islam. However, because they did not have direct divine guidance, for this reason, many innovations or particular schools of thoughts which they adopted, this was given greater emphasis when they were preaching. The fundamental teachings of Islam were ignored. Many innovations and viewpoints entered in this manner. Allah the Almighty sent one Hakam and Adl, judge and arbiter, who was to draw the line between what was right and wrong, and clearly distinguish between reality and falsehood. Without this Hakam and Adl, judge and arbiter, naturally only misguided views would emerge. Anyhow, there was a spark amongst the Muslims, and a section showed inclination towards their religion. In fact, there was a significant interest shown by the Muslims. Actually, this interest of the Muslims was born out of a desire to remove their frustration and restlessness within. This occurred in this era according to Allah's decree, so that such people would then search for Allah's appointed one. Many on whom Allah's grace descended, or continues to fall upon even now, they end up successful in this search for the appointed one of God. But others who fall into the wrong hands, they leave this world still in a state of unrest while still searching for that appointed person. Here, when the incidents of birth or initiation are sent to me, it comes to light how agitated the righteous souls were, how keen they were to search out the truth, and how terrible